Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, how you doing?
Doing good, man. I tell you, it's a beautiful day right now. We got the fall chill in the air, and the light changes, the quality of the light this time of year, and I just love this time of year. So basketball season's right around the corner too. We still got a lot of football going on, so everything's looking good.
Yep. It's TCU week, of course. We just had media day up here at the USA for basketball, which tips off November 6th against Incarnate Word. So a lot of really exciting things going on here with Texas Tech Athletics. All right, we have some great questions from y'all. We're going to get right to them. WC Red Raid wants to know, how do we think OU's defense will change with Ruffin McNeil running things now that Mike Stoops has been fired? He said he's not known for a scheme that is complex or even a great X and O guy, but more of a raw guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably basically true. I mean, based upon what we know about Ruffin McNeil, and he's going to probably simplify things. He always used to say, what was it? An uncluttered mind means fast feet or something like that. So in other words, if you don't have to think very much, you can just react and play. Yeah. And that's kind of his defensive philosophy. So I'm sure he's going to put that in place. But really, you know, I mean, he's got bigger issues there at Oklahoma with that defense than X's and O's and that sort of deal. I mean, they're going to be better because they want to play for him really hard for the first couple of games or something like that. But bottom line, that defense is just not very good. I mean, they're not very physical. They don't tackle well. And I don't know how much of a change he's going to be able to make for the full remainder of the season in that area. I think they're going to struggle defensively regardless.
Yeah, I actually have a different idea on this. I do think it's going to make an impact. I'm not always the biggest on addition by subtraction, but there are exact cases. And let me tell you something, I've met Mike Stoops. I actually had the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with him, and he wasn't rude or anything. He could barely carry on a conversation, Mighty Joe. I've never been more underwhelmed by a coordinator in my life, to be honest, which is completely opposite with Bob Stoops. He's a slick, impressive person, and Mike couldn't be further from Bob as far in that regard. And we've heard him in the press box before, slamming around and screaming, and more than any other coach I've ever heard at any level lose his stuff. And there's been some talks about him losing his temper on the team. So I mean, there may be just a fact of like, he's gone. Okay, now we could just play, which is a fact of sports. I've seen it play out before. So there's enough talent on the Sooners defense, I feel like. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be the steel curtain or anything like that, but I think we might see some improvement, unfortunately, honestly, from Oklahoma's defense just because Mike Stoops is gone.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere is going to improve automatically. Right. I have no doubt about that. He's kind of like a Bo Pelini kind of a guy. I mean, same sort of guy. Those guys are cut from the same cloth. What's Pelini doing these days anyway? Any idea?
Youngstown State at one point. I don't know if he's still there.
Well, maybe Mike will go be his D coordinator or something.
There you go. Midnight 54 wants to know if the Red Raiders will start out flat again Thursday night in Fort Worth. What do you think, Joe?
I don't think they're going to be flat.
Me either.
Because I mean that's what's been in their ear. That's what they've been hearing about these last this week and a half, and so I think they're going to come out with plenty of emotion. To me, the question mark is not so much being flat. It's just about how they execute on defense. Yeah. I mean, look, you can play with effort and so forth, and that helps a lot. But you still do have to execute properly. You have to have the right scheme in place, good play calls and everything like that. So, we're going to watch that and see how that works out. But I will also say that I think TCU offensively is fairly pedestrian compared to a lot of these other teams that Tech has played. So the defense may and should look better. But that first quarter is going to be interesting, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and you could argue it could depend on how the offense, Texas Tech's offense, executes. There's been so much talk about the quarterbacks. If it is Jet Duffy, I think, like many of us suspect it's going to be, how is he going to do? I mean, he's been a superstar on one play and then throwing it right to the defense on another. So I'm very, very interested to see how this is going to play out against Gary Patterson's defense. The chess match between Kingsbury and Patterson is always fun to watch, and this year is no different. As far as coming out flat, the reason I don't think they're going to come out flat is because they have so many guys from the DFW area, which I know that may sound weird, but if you look back, Tech has historically played well under Kingsbury when they go to Dallas, when they go to the Metroplex. I think they have, like I said, like 34, I believe, in Tech's notes, 34 guys from the Metroplex on the team, including almost 20 in the 2 deep. So that's a lot. When you look 2 years ago, they went to Fort Worth, that 2016 team had no business beating that Horned Frog team, but they did. And they did it by running the football and playing defense, which was crazy. Even against Baylor, they won the last 2 games. In 2016, actually, at Jerry World, there was no reason to play. It looked like all was lost. You just got blown out by Iowa State, and they go play inspired football at Jerry World. And then even before, against the Bryles teams, the top 5 teams, you played them pretty close a couple of games. Now you got blown out some against some really good teams where you mismatched, but you played above your head some there in DFW. So that's just been kind of my personal observation. Somebody from DFW has noticed that this team seems to play well in that area. Now, you also got blown out 82-27 in Fort Worth. So
extenuating circumstances in that one too, I think, with the old playbook and everything, right?
So there's that, but overall, I just feel like they play well in Fort Worth. Juicebox, interesting question from him. He says, what animal would you say best describes Cliff Kingsbury? And I don't even know. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I didn't even know where to begin on this one either. But the best thing I could come up with is an owl, because to me, an owl is sort of a quiet, reserved guy that doesn't let you know what's going on in his mind. Very keeps everything close to the vest. But a wise owl, there's something going on in that head, right? He may not let on all the time, but the gears are turning. So Kingsbury's a wise, old, well, not too old.
Old, wow.
Fairly young owl.
Well, he's not getting any younger now. He's my age, so we're pushing 40 now. So at this point, yeah, not spring chickens, that's for sure. That's not the animal. The owl. I didn't think you'd go there. I like it. That's such a good one. I think I'm just going to stick with that. All right. From Syntex wants to know, and this is a good question. Will Tech settle on a QB this year?
I first off, I got to say, before the season started, I predicted that 3 quarterbacks were going to start for Texas Tech, and I think that's going to happen, man. We'll see what happens with Duffy, and I didn't expect it to happen quite like this. I got to admit, but looks like that's going to happen. To me, Alan Bowman is Kingsbury's guy. I really believe that he's a believer in Alan Bowman, and it sounds like that health situation is maybe not as bad as we might have feared. A collapsed lung, that sounds pretty awful, right? Spent 4 nights in the hospital, but it sounds like he's making pretty good progress. And if what they're telling is just not a bunch of hot methane that they're blowing, he could be ready sooner rather than later. And if that happens, then I think he's going to settle in. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to be your starting quarterback down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. I think they do see Bowman as the quarterback of the future, or Kingsbury does. And I don't know if he's going to play Thursday against TCU, but maybe you have 9 days off between that and Kansas at home. Maybe you wait still even after that, kind of get them going again in practice and everything, and then the following week. But it does sound like he will be back sometime this season. Now, I wonder if you agree with me on this. If Kingsbury's, I have a sneaking suspicion, Joe, that Kingsbury's a little nervous about Duffy just having like a wonder kid kind of performance where everybody's clamoring for him, and if he puts Bowman back, everybody's like, "What are you doing?" Because it is obvious to me. I mean, and I get it. Bowman was great when he started, other than kind of a bad start against West Virginia, but so did the whole team. But I mean, he was leading the country in passing. He was on fire. Now I don't know how good that Oklahoma State win looks now when you see what Iowa State just did to him, but still, he's looked really good this year, and to me, it's obvious that that's the guy. And like I said, he wants Duffy to play well, but does he really want people? Duffy's just such a lightning rod, and people love that dual threat ability. I'm one of those people. I think there may be not some nerves, but just kind of like, whoa, let's not get too carried away with the Jet Duffy train, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the last thing he wants right now is a full-blown quarterback controversy. Right. And he doesn't want to put up with that. And it's going to be quite a situation, if Duffy comes out there, starts, and sets the world on fire. And then Bowman is available. What happens at that point? And then Carter comes back, and at this point, he may not even be a factor anymore. I don't know. Right. But it's a wild deal. It really is.
It's crazier now than it was to start the season. You know what I mean? It really is. And of course, I think he wants everybody to do well, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Mm-hmm. And finally, Raider Fan 01 says Texas Tech is ranked 109th in turnover margin, which I think that's not counting the 4 against FCS opponent Lamar, because you have you're -4 without that. Okay. because the way it is on a law stats, it's 60th is what I saw in the country right now, which is still not great, but it's not big difference between that and 109th.
Yeah.
But he wants to know, bottom line is turnovers, they haven't been there. They've been pretty good protecting the football now, but as far as creating turnovers, 806D, Turnover Tuesday, all that stuff, it hadn't happened so far this year.
No, it hadn't. I think there's a lot that goes into that. Part of it is defenses that generate a lot of turnovers or defenses that swarm to the ball.
Yeah.
You got a lot of guys around the ball, raking at the ball, hitting the ball carrier. Every time you do that, there's a chance it's going to come loose. And I'm not seeing that gang tackling, swarming sort of a defense out of Tech right now. So that's part of it. I think physically, sometimes Tech plays physical football, and other times they're not. They look soft out there.
Yeah.
So you got to play consistently physical to create turnovers as well. And then finally, you got to look at the secondary. If you're not covering people, then you can't get interceptions.
Yeah.
If they're just catching the ball wide open, then you don't stand a chance. So if the coverage is not tightened up, then that's one thing that you could just forget about. And I'm not seeing a lot of tip balls at the line of scrimmage either, which is something else that usually leads to turnovers.
Yeah.
So all of the things that you have to do defensively to create turnovers, they're just not doing much of right now.
What's funny is this team seems very similar to last year in terms of run defense and honestly pass defense, which wasn't very good last year either, for being honest, but just not there in the turnovers. It seems like it's 2016 in terms of turnovers. You know what I mean? So it's like the run defense, hey, it's still there. They brought that from last year, but the turnovers, they produced 29 last year, 6th in the country. If you're doing that, look, that was in the end of the game against West Virginia, the difference was -3 in the turnover department. That was it. Even Dana Holgerson said that in the postgame. Look, difference was we got 3 turnovers on them. That's it. So if Tech can start turning the ball over, and they're going to be playing offenses starting this week against TCU that aren't as good as they have been playing, then maybe we're going to see more success. Maybe we see some of that things have changed that we heard so much about in the offseason. But Mighty Joe, man, great stuff from you as always. Great questions from y'all, and until next time.